can't mark a date and believe that that day you can turn it on. It's not about the date. It's about the commitment to yourself. It's about dating your purpose. It's about marrying yourself to your goals. It's about realizing that there is no one coming to save you but you. You have to be willing to put in the work. You must be willing to walk into success. You must be able to run past doubt. You must be able to go through the barbed wire of self-doubt and deprecating words that you have placed over yourself and tried to play it off like it was a joke when in reality you truly believe that you don't deserve things. It's time now for you to speak life over yourself.
Losing. Most of you hear losing and it makes you cringe, it makes you afraid, you fear being embarrassed, you fear being judged, you fear looking like an idiot in front of a bunch of people that won't matter to you in 5 years. But here's the thing, being willing to fail, being willing to lose, will create such a competitive advantage for you because most people can't do it. Most people can't be seen falling on their face. So our options are to stay the same or to actually be willing to fail.
This is your time. You have greatness in you, and everything that happens to you, I've come to know. Some things happen to you, some things happen for you.
And that is what I do. And that is what you can do too. If you have something to change, if you want to change something, change it. Change it now.
Zach Schultz, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for making some time. I appreciate to have you on here. How are you doing?
Oh, just wonderful. Trying to live every day better than the last, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So, first of all, I just want to kind of, let people know that basically I know you from, just being acquainted at the gym and stuff. So,
oh yeah,
it's been nice to be able to chat with you a little bit here and there, and but this is going to be great to get to know you a little bit more and better. So I want to get started on like your history and background. Like, first of all, were you ever into any sports, or like what essentially got you into like bodybuilding, lifting and stuff?
yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been active, I guess. Starting off young, kind of just starting off in soccer, and then as you get into middle school and high school, everybody kind of pushes you in like the football direction or wrestling, and it definitely kind of gave me something to work for. Kind of made school worth it and everything that comes along with that, because being a hard-headed kid, you don't really like school, so there's got to be a reason to go to it.
Yeah.
And football, I guess sports in general, and then ended up wrestling in high school. It gives you just some type of motivation, I guess,
Right. And
but
then yeah, so then how did you get into like lifting and stuff?
I mean, you get out of high school and you kind of like, I was more work oriented. Like all I wanted to do was work as many hours as I could, and like that's fun and all. I love making money, but you got to find something to do on the pastime. And that's when I kind of was like, you obviously look in the mirror. It's like, don't like what I'm looking at. It's like, how can we change that? And then, you see buddies working out and people who are kind of like half committed, half not. So I kind of like told myself, like when obviously COVID happened, like 100% commit, like I'm gonna start eating right, start working out, kind of follow some type of regimen, not necessarily bodybuilding related, just working out in general,
Right.
And so I kind of did like a 6-month kind of trial period of like just eating chicken, rice, and broccoli for like 3 meals a day, just
Oh
to
my
kind
gosh.
of just so I could kind of tell myself like, hey, if I put my mind to something, I can do it. And I ended up following through. I did it. And then once you kind of do that for so long, you kind of just get in the mindset of, all right, I'm not really eating right now for like pleasure. I'm eating for a purpose, you know, on just making my body feel better. And that's kind of how I just started. Obviously, the COVID thing, it's like everybody's getting sick. And if you're on the little bigger side, you'd rather not, if there's something you can do to change that, you will, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Now,
So
have
that's how
you
we
ever, yeah, that's really cool, but also like crazy at the same time that
started.
you,
Yeah.
you know, like that's crazy that you put yourself in that like in those kinds of like personal, you know, challenges and goals with even just like a diet. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. Now have you ever struggled with like weight at all, or it was
Oh,
just
yeah. Well, I mean, not like morbidly obese, I'd say, but like, you know, you'd like definitely on the bigger side, you know, and
really?
just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously when you're like a football player and all that stuff, they want you to be as big as possible. They don't really care if you have a six pack or if you're defined. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just want you to be
Right.
athletic and they want you to be as big as possible. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a challenge because I've always had, you know, overeating is a problem for me. I can always overeat. Now undereating is a problem. You know, it's like set a portion aside and this is how much I'm going to eat and like leave it there. I'd always find myself snacking and chips and, you know, all the bad stuff you're not supposed to eat. So that like couple years out of high school when I wasn't really doing anything, I kind of blew up a little bit and got to about heaviest I was about 248. And then after I started running and eating right, that 6 months, I lost like 35 pounds or something like that.
Wow.
And so that's kind of like that triggers something in your head. It's like, all right, I can actually do it. You know, it's not impossible to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, did you ever like have anyone that you looked up to, you know, like nowadays, you know, with having like YouTube on Instagram and stuff, like was there anybody that you were kind of like getting inspiration from or anything like that?
I mean, not really, because I was never not really much into I'd say
Social media?
fitness. Yeah,
Okay.
social media is another thing. I tend to stay off of it as much as possible. It's not
Mm.
really I don't feel like it's my lane because
Yeah, me
I
too.
just like all I like to do is just pretty much work. That's what I like to do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's working out, working to make money, working around the house. I feel like there's better stuff I can put my time towards, I guess.
Got it.
But
Okay.
no, nobody really that was like a big workout. I mean, I guess more or less, I'd say strength and conditioning teacher in high school. He was, I mean, he kind of taught me like the
The
background on
basics.
how, yeah, how
Yeah.
to lift properly, which I
Mm-hmm.
kind of helped. I've always been decent at lifting. Now, like correlating it to into a diet and all that other stuff, that's a whole different factor. But the working out part's kind of, I've always enjoyed that.
Yeah. So like it sounds like when you started like doing the chicken and the broccoli and the rice and stuff, it was just kind of
Mhm.
like a general like idea of like, okay, I know this is healthy. I'm just gonna stick to this.
Exactly, exactly. Because I mean, I wasn't obviously a health nut or anything by that means, like even remotely. So I like you hear like from the bodybuilding community, like everybody eats chicken, rice, and broccoli. Well, I was like, all
Right.
right, well, I'm gonna give it a shot, you know.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean, props to that for doing that because that's difficult, you
oh
know.
yeah,
So yeah.
definitely.
Now I'm really curious now. So you know, you were just like lifting and stuff like that. So then at what point or what made you kind of wanted to get into like a show?
I told myself I was gonna do like a kind of like a mock prep, I guess, and kind of see like what I could realistically lose weight and see how I looked. But after like thinking about it, I had some friends kind of point me in the right direction. It's like, hey, if you're gonna diet and do all that hard work, like you might as well look for a show. You might as well get the most you can get out of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so they put me onto a show and I was like, all right, like, you know, you're kind of half in, half out, you know, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't really think I was going to follow through with it, but it ended up being a great experience.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. So then, like, first of all, I mean, I know you told me that you have, you coach yourself, right?
Yes, for the most part. I mean, there was, I mean, three or four people who had really big parts. Mindy, she works out where we work out too. Elaine, and they're already kind of in the bodybuilding sphere. They do shows and everything like that.
Okay.
So Mindy already kind of having a coaching background, she's like, when we get into like kind of like the later stages of prep and it starts getting really intense, she kind of gave me like calories to shoot for. This is what I should be intaking for the day. So she was more or less my coach towards the end of it. And then obviously all the moral support, kind of just saying like, stick with it, it's going to pay off, because you get deep into that cut and you start doubting yourself because it's so horrible. It gets to the point where it's just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard to be subjective with your own self.
Exactly.
At that point. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's really crazy. That I'm assuming, because I feel like we can relate on some of these points, because I also experienced that, like where I did like a trial just to see how, I would do, and if I even could handle it before I even jumped into something like that. So I feel like, we've been similar in that aspect. But even when you jumped in, you were like, okay, I'm going to do this show. The fact that like you didn't even think about like, hey, maybe I should hire a coach. Like, does that mean that like you just kind of like, let me figure this out? Like, there's kind of like a pride thing a little bit, or what exactly just drove you to just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna kind of do it on my own, and we'll see where it kind of goes.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a factor in it. I mean, you kind of just I wanted to more like, no matter what place I came in, no matter how I ended up doing at the end, I kind of just, it was more like another goal oriented thing for me. It's like, I want to see if I can, another thing, like the chicken, rice, and broccoli, can I follow through? Like slowly restricting those calories and still giving good workouts and posing and all these other key factors that come into a bodybuilding show. It's an eye opener, and so the whole coach, I was like, right when I was investigating coaches, and I was like, man, nobody who's good at it is cheap, and I didn't want to waste my time and money or in somebody else's time and money if I wasn't serious about it. So I kind of want to do on my own, make sure I'm invested in it. And if I didn't like it, then it's like, all right, I'll never do it again, but now that it's something I could see myself doing again for sure, like definitely going to happen again, I would, just to like get the full experience, definitely invest in a coach, because they help you get that last little edge, I would say.
Yeah. You know what? I do see all your points that you're saying, what you just mentioned. And it's definitely like an experience for someone to have that courage to be like, I'm going to try this on my own. So definitely give you props to that.
Thank you.
For sure. Cause that's a different kind of a mindset and just, I don't know, like courage that, you did that for. So that's awesome. And so now so like how far out did you start, like, I guess this like quote unquote prep?
Oh, so I started about the 16th week mark. That's when it's like, all right, I have a goal in mind at the 6-week point. We'll dial the calories back, couple hundred, sharpen up the eating, kind of take out some of the, like the going out to dinner and like the late night ice cream runs and stuff like that, to really kind of like see if we can really start chiseling away at the body. And, it's 16 weeks out, and depending how serious you are about it, I mean, until you get to about week 8, that's when you really, like, your calories are starting to get really cut. The foods, I mean, starting to get bland. The workouts are starting to feel a little exhausting, and then obviously you got to up the cardio. It's it's a struggle. It really is. But it's out of the whole thing, I would definitely encourage people who have like that kind of spark to try something different, or in that weightlifting sphere, just give it a shot.
Yes. Now share with everyone exactly what show did you do, and then also what division, because we didn't even mention that yet.
Oh yeah, so I did the Midwinter Classic. It was in Waukegan on December 3rd, and I competed in Classic Physique. Ended up ranking 4th, which is, it's something. It's better than nothing. But more or less out of it, I'm glad I didn't place higher, actually, because it kind of showed me, it opens up your eyes on where you really rank, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, as long as you're being objective about it, it's like, yeah, it's like those guys who beat me were bigger, leaner, maybe even working out a little longer, maybe dieted a little harder. So it kind of puts in perspective how hard I have to push it for the next one, you know.
Yeah. Now, how many were in your class?
I think in my class, I think there was 6, but in
Six.
overall, in the whole show, I want to say it was a giant show, a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. There was
Really?
like over 200 competitors in the whole show.
Wow.
It's just
Doesn't
spread
that,
out through the classes, but they were kind of speeding through it at a certain point, which was, it was interesting. it
yeah.
it was like, get your posing routine and get off, you know.
Yeah. I mean, for regional, I hear, and even a little bit in nationals, that it kind of goes that way. And then once you get to like the pro level, you get a little bit extra time.
Yeah, because I
Um,
mean, they're
yeah,
gonna know they're gonna know, kind of, just from obviously the experience, and kind of know what they're looking at. They're gonna know on first looks kind of who's winning, who's placing where, you know.
right. Now, back to your prep and like your diet. I mean, your diet, your cardio, your posing, your
Mm-hmm.
training, all of that. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I know you were driving most of this on your own and had a little bit of help from, some of the other people that you just mentioned.
Yep.
Were they all helping like on all factors, or it was just like certain areas that you had help in?
More like the food aspect, because I mean, I like my workout splits are, I mean, it's pretty simple, and then obviously it's just kind of up your cardio as you're starting, like maybe you start stalling out in weight, so you obviously up the cardio, maybe dial the calories back a little bit, but then you got to kind of figure out what exactly I should be putting into my body, which is, you don't really realize like how much every little piece of food you eat, or like what vegetables you should be eating, is like the simplest thing, I guess, because it's like, you think you can have broccoli and cauliflower and all this other stuff, but there's like, some are more carb dominant than others.
Mm-hmm.
And you get towards the end, it's like, man, I'm not even allowed to have broccoli. Like, what is this? You know,
Yeah.
it's just to get that last little bit of leanness. It's gotta be, the diet's so strict if you push it obviously that far, which if you want to be successful, you kind of have to. And the food factor is uh such a big like factor, I guess, you know. It's, if they weren't there helping me with that, I don't know where I would be.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the diet part is so individualized, but I'm curious to know, if you were you tracking this, like were you weighing your stuff, or was it just kind of like eyeballing? Was it a meal
Oh no,
planish?
it's all, I mean, it was all weighed. I know exactly how many carbs I was intaking a day, sodium, all that stuff. It was, uh, you don't realize how much, like when you get towards the end, I guess you should say, how much
Yeah.
you actually have to cut back. Because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at the end, I think the lowest I went to was probably 1,800 calories a day, which, I mean, it's really low, but I feel like I could have pushed it a little harder, like looking back at it, you know,
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of learning from that experience.
exactly, which is all going to be useful for your next show. Um,
Exactly. Yep.
so what type of foods then were you typically personally eating
Uh,
throughout your prep?
I mean, a lot of chicken, lean ground turkey, rice, broccoli, not too much steak. That's kind of limited, obviously, being kind of a little more calorie dense. Um, 2 week sickness, you can't really get over it. You know, it's like you get a little cold and it knocks you out for 2 weeks, just
Mm-hmm.
because you're already not eating enough. You're already not resting well. And you just feel uncomfortable, you know, most of the time.
Yeah. And then how is also your peak week, like your diet during peak week? Did
Mhm.
you get to carb up at all, or was there anything special about peak week as far as your diet goes?
Yeah, I mean, mostly, probably towards the end, after you're so depleted, you cut your water, you carb up a little bit, obviously, to kind of fill up those glycogen storages. And I mean, I was still trying. I was still so nervous to, like, even though Mindy, who was helping me out, she was telling me to eat all this stuff. I was still getting like self conscious. Like, it's like the mental part of it. It's like, oh, if I eat too much now. It's like realistically, you got to eat more than you would think just to fill up, to fill
Yeah.
out a little bit so you don't look so flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so like, there were certain days I felt like I wasn't eating enough, you know, because like she would tell me to eat more and I was like kind of being reserved, I guess.
Okay.
But that was more my mental, I guess, because I already felt really uncomfortable. You know, the nerves are starting to hit and you don't think you're gonna be able to do it, and then
Yeah.
you know, you get down to it and you gotta follow through.
Yeah. And I mean, I hear that's super common, but yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Exactly.
Now tell us a little bit about your actual like show day. How is that for you?
Oh man, that was driving there was probably the hardest part. So I
Really?
mean, oh yeah, definitely. I wanted to turn around so bad. I
Wait, what
did.
about it? What about it? Was it hard?
You know, the nerves are because I mean, you know, a lot of people bring friends or they bring coaches and they have a team around them. A lot of people come with teams and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there was a couple other people who I knew from obviously working out who were doing it with me, which brought a lot of security, knowing they were going to be there, kind of
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which that definitely helped. But like the night before, when you drive in and you get your tan and you're meeting all the competitors and stuff like that, you're doing your check-ins. It's you kind of it kind of hits you like the reality of it, you know. And so that morning, I should have. Further note, I definitely should have got a hotel closer. You don't want to have to drive 2 hours to the show the morning prior, which
Mm-hmm.
I did. Um, so I was there obviously early, kind of just slept in my truck waiting for athlete check-ins in the morning. And then you get down into the behind the stage and everything like that, and everybody's kind of getting adequate and they're kind of telling you the lineup on how people are going to come out. And once you figure out where like when your division's coming out, you kind of either know, all right, I got to get ready, or I have 4 hours till I go on stage and I just got to kind of relax, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So classic physique ended up being the second call out after open bodybuilding. So I was like on the verge of, I still had to stay backstage, but I was cold for a little bit. So there's probably 2 hours after the first showing, which started, I believe, at 9. And so I want to say I went on stage about 11, maybe 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you know, before you go out there, like, I don't know if everybody else was, obviously some people that was their third or fourth show, but there's a couple of guys back there. It's like we're kind of sitting there talking. It's their first show too, and all we're sitting there doing, like, we're flexing, but we couldn't stop shaking. That's
Oh
the
yeah.
nerve. The nerves are like, so it's like you're hitting a front double bicep or a back bicep or a front most
Yeah.
muscular, something like that, and you're like you think you're shaking because you're so nervous, but as long as you trained enough and you posed enough, you kind of just pose through it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
yeah, it's nothing like anything I've ever done before, for sure.
Yeah, that's a whole experience. Oh my
It's crazy.
gosh. What do you think was like, I guess out of the whole show, like, was there anything that stood out to you that you were just like, whoa, I was not expecting that? Like, I mean, even like when it comes to tanning or like just any
Mhm.
of the process that seemed to like just kind of shock you a little bit. Did you
Oh,
have
it's
anything?
definitely, you know, kind of like, obviously the whole aura around bodybuilding. It's like there's a bunch of people who are kind of like self-entitled kind of assholes, you know. So when I get there initially, I think everybody's going to be, you know, everybody's so dieted, and you know, you think you're going to get there and everybody's going to be pissed off and mad and nobody's going to talk to you or anything. It's like the complete opposite. So I mean 95% of the people there are like, I mean, smiling, everybody's asking how you're doing, do you need anything, can I help you with anything. I mean, everybody's so enlightened, I should say. And
Oh,
that was
yeah.
that was probably my biggest surprise, like going into it thinking everybody's gonna be in it for themselves when there's a
Hmm.
lot of people who are actually there to help, you know.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
probably would have thought the same thing. So yeah, that's good to hear.
Yes, for sure. There's people are a lot more supportive than you think, and
Hmm.
especially when you realize like pretty much everybody down there went through the same thing you went through. You know, if they took it as serious as you did. I mean, obviously everybody kind of takes it their own way, or how far they want to push the diet, or how far they want to push the workout, or what they really expect to get from the show.
Hmm.
But for the most part, I mean, everybody's just excited to be there, excited to kind of stay away from that as much as possible. But and obviously too many eggs to count. That's, I mean, if I could, I'd throw them into eggs and egg whites. I mean, you just get especially egg whites, you get more bang for your buck. So you can kind of just eat more of it and kind of fills that gut up a little better. Then obviously your protein oats and stuff like that. You want kind of more heartier stuff that kind of sits in your gut. So you're not feeling that like kind of achy, hungry gut all day.
Yeah. No, so essentially it sounds like you were just mainly eating like clean, clean whole foods.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. Which
No,
is always,
no,
yeah, the way to
no
go.
cheat days. No cheat days.
Wow. Um, Now what about like posing? Because we know like posing is such a big thing when it comes to, getting on the stage and competing. So how is posing for you?
Oh, it was, I mean, definitely that. That's actually probably the craziest part of it. I wasn't really at first, like, 16 weeks out, I was like, oh, posing, it's easy. You throw up your front double bicep and you think you're doing it right. But then you go to an actual posing coach, and I ended up using a lady named Kate Lane out of Chicago. She's very knowledgeable, and she kind of dialed me up, and it's an eye opener on how taxing posing can be if you don't do it every day. And it's like people see you and you're posing and people think he's like, oh, he's just showing off, or it's like, no, it's like something you really have to hone in to make it look
Yeah.
fluid, and so you're not shaking when you're posing and all this other crazy stuff. It's a cardio you have to work. It really is.
Yeah, it takes like breathing a certain way, and it takes like these certain strength muscles that you were like, what the hell? Like it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And then you start cramping, and it's like how am I supposed to pose here at home when I'm cramping, and how am I supposed to do that in front of 500 people?
yeah,
It
exactly.
it adds into the nerves a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
if you don't take that time to really hone in on the posing aspect of it, it'll bite you. It really will.
Yeah. So what do you think was like the hardest part as far as like during the prep when it comes to like diet, cardio? Because I guess like also how much cardio were you doing?
Oh man, I mean
I mean, I
at
know
the
it
end,
shifted, but yeah.
yeah, I mean towards the end, I mean I would started off just doing it at about the 8 week mark. That's when I really started up in that cardio to kind of cut some of that stubborn fat that wasn't coming off. Um, I usually do 45 minutes post workout, and then 6 weeks out, I started doing 2 a days, and I started going like I'd wake up at 2:50 in the morning. I'd be at the workout place by usually about 3, get an hour in on the stair stepper, do that, sit in the sauna maybe for a little bit, go to work. Then I'd usually work 6 to 4. So then I'd get off work, go actually hit my strength training portion. And then towards the end of prep, I'd actually hit like probably the last 2 weeks out, or maybe 3. Then I was doing another half an hour after the workout. So that it's a lot of cardio, a lot.
Wow. So is that why you were like waking up in the morning, like before work and doing cardio, just because to get the time in, or because I'm sure you're
Yep.
not doing that like now, right?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
No, off season means put on some good body fat and not push cardio too hard to the point where it's going to make it hard to, like, if I'm consistently doing cardio, I guess throughout my bulk, I don't want it to have to do too much cardio on my prep because my body's so used to it.
Right.
I want to dial it back a little bit. I mean, still do cardio here because it's obviously it's good for the body and it's good for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But maximum maybe 20 minutes, nothing too crazy.
Right.
But during that prep, I mean that hour in the morning, that's a killer. It was a
Yeah.
killer.
Yes.
And then you got to go to work and you're exhausted, and then you got to somehow figure out how you're going to strength train at night. But every once in a while, you get like a spurt of, like, I'd say motivation or inspiration. It's like, hey, this isn't that bad, and it'll pay off in the end.
Mm-hmm. Now, walk us through peak week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, peak week. That is interesting. So I took a whole week off of work prior, which a lot of people do who have full-time jobs who compete. Um, just to kind of your body's so depleted and you're so shocked that I mean, it's even hard to function, let alone go to work or, do an actual job.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there was a couple workouts. I mean, probably 5 days out, maybe 3 days out was my last workout. But then starting from there on until show day, you're like, I'm resting, slowly starting to bring the water intake down, obviously, to kind of dry out a little bit. And then the other crazy thing is just sit around with your legs up as much as possible to try to get that last little bit of water out of the legs, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And all these weird little things that are supposed to help. And it's, I mean, it's, even though you're resting, you don't feel rested.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so weird. Cause I mean, obviously your calories are still cut.
Exactly. How was your, did you struggle with like sleep at all, during your prep?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, more or less it's kind of hard because I mean, you have those, even like there's a couple times I was kind of sick during prep, and I mean, it's like show like kind of the hard work they've put in.
Yeah. Now, I know that you said you got fourth place, but like that's obviously that's good. That's really, really good. So congratulations on that, because that was
Thank
your
you.
first show and you did half of that yourself. So that's
Appreciate
definitely,
that. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. But did you get any feedback at all?
Oh yeah. And that's the other thing
Okay.
I was nervous about. I was like, ugh. I was like, I think I know what's wrong with me, but let's see what an actual judge thinks is wrong with me. So kind of looking at the judge's feedback, it's like when you're looking at that, all the stuff they say, it's like, if you're objective, are they lying? And I like was kind of reading over it. I was like, nope, everything they said is 100%. Like the back, good defined back needs to get bigger. Need more conditioning in the legs. Posing can be a little more crisp. And this is all stuff that obviously comes with experience and time in it. And but like just those little check marks, it's like, all right, now the show's over. I know what I need to work on. Let's get back to the grind.
Right. Now, real quickly, did you during like peak week or show day, did you take any like diuretics or anything like that?
Yeah, Mindy ended up giving me a couple diuretics to kind of help me get that last little bit of water out. And I still feel like I was holding a little bit more water in my hamstrings and kind of like my back than I thought I was going to. Because like those couple days out, when you're kind of seeing how you're going to look on stage, it's like, man, I was taking pictures. I was like, man, I look like the hamstrings are peaking. I look really shredded. I feel like I'm going to feel really good. And then show day, it's like, man, what happened? You know, I mean, but it's a mixture of the nerves and like posing. Like I didn't realize how much posing played a factor in how your body looks. Obviously, you know, it's just a slight tweak of the elbows up or a slight tweak in like your positioning on your legs can make your legs look that much bigger, more defined. And just little things like that that'll definitely mental notes for the next one.
Yeah. And how has your post show been like? What, like, did you have a plan to, like, I mean, obviously you got the feedback and you know what to work on, and I'm sure you basically have started working on that. You've been, but did you have like there's a lot of competitors that do like a reverse diet.
Yep.
Is there anything like that you've been?
Oh yeah. So I definitely did. Mindy was pointing out it. If you can do a reverse, I mean, apparently, I don't know if there's much science behind it, but I know just for my mental, I would rather, like everybody is saying, do a reverse diet, kind of put the weight on slowly. Don't obviously gain it back too fast. So obviously after the show day, I kind of you have a couple days where you binge eat and you get all that nasty stuff you haven't been able to eat for a while, kind of out of the system, pizza and donuts and all that stuff. It's like I haven't been able to eat it. Now I get to go crazy. But so I did that for a couple of days, and it's like, all right, time to button it up, and then slowly every week kind of add 200-400 calories back onto my starting from what I left off on the show, working back up to my maintenance calories. And I did it over about 8 weeks.
Okay.
So that's about how long it took me to get back up to my maintenance calories. Now that I'm at my little bit past my maintenance calories, now it's kind of start to slowly add the calories up until I feel like I'm putting on the weight I need to put on, I guess.
So what, yeah, and what's your goal, I guess, as far as like how much you're looking to gain for your off season?
So at the show, I was 180 pounds. That's what I cut down to. So my
Okay.
weight category for classic physique for the height range I'm in, is 195 pounds. So I have 15 pounds of muscle I can play with. Um, so realistically, when I started my cut, at the 16-week mark for my prep, I was about 210. My goal is to get somewhere at 220, 225, and carry it decent so it's not sloppy. Take the
Hmm.
time to really put it on smoothly. And once I get to kind of that 220, 225 range, then we'll start actively looking for shows, kind of seeing how we feel, and then it'll be another cut.
Okay. And I know I'm like kind of going back and forth a little bit, but
Yeah, no problem.
I know you shared that like you had, a couple days of like, getting to eat whatever, but what was like first meal? What was that first thing that you ended up eating that you were like, oh, I get to enjoy this that you haven't in a while?
Oh man, it ended up being working out just perfectly. So after the night showing, when you do your posing routine and then they do awards and stuff like that, you get down backstage and they ended up ordering like 30 pizzas. And I was like, perfect. I can do my cheat meal right now. And I mean, they ordered way too many pizzas because they knew people are going to be, just looking to eat whatever they could.
Hmm.
And I definitely I left the show uncomfortable. Way uncomfortable.
Really? Yeah. And then do you typically like sweets or savory or both?
More of a savory guy. I don't really like sweets. I mean, every once in a while it's decent, but definitely savory, like like a big bowl of pasta or something like that. Like that goes a lot farther with me than a bowl of ice cream, I guess.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Now, back to your post show, and how's that been going for you as far as like I mean, I know your diet's now back up, and training wise, so how's that, and how have you been also handling cardio?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I still kept cardio. I keep cardio in the mix, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, just 20 minutes. That's probably the most I'll do on a stair stepper, or maybe walking on an incline, something real low intensity, just, or even sauna time kind of helps too.
Hmm.
But especially after the show, it's like, all right, now that I can dial back on the cardio aspect, I've never felt more, I guess, inspired to like, I have a goal to train now. It's like you're done and then you start your recomp and you kind of fill out again. You're getting good workouts in, the pumps feel great. You're still somewhat lean, and you feel so much more inspired to work out. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So what is yeah, for sure. What does a what's your kind of like split currently? What does that look like?
So, I mean, I'm usually going either 2 or 3 days max working out in a row, then I'll do a rest day. Um, I like to do usually chest and arms on the same day. I'll go bis and tris. Because I got a weird mindset. If I'm working triceps, I might as well work the other side,
Mm-hmm,
I'll usually
mm-hmm.
go back and shoulders. I feel like they're good corresponding movements. Kind of if I hit a really hard pull movement, then I'll go right into a push on like the shoulders and kind of give the back a break and flood up the shoulders a little bit, then maybe go back to back and do a couple different exercises doing both of those. But since back was one of my weak points, I'm really taking those back days to really focus on that. That's definitely something I'm spending a little more time carving away at, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously kind of separate my leg days. I'll do like a quad dominant leg day, that maybe a hamstring and glute dominant leg day. um those are leg days. Have always kind of been, that's what I like to do. Always kind of being lower body dominant. That's squatting, I mean leg press, all that stuff. That's what makes me want to go work out for sure.
Yeah, which is I mean, it's good because I still see like a lot of males training more upper body than lower body.
Yeah. Oh,
So
for sure. That is very common. I mean, but
yeah.
that's, I've never had a strong bench. I've never had strong shoulders, and kind of legs is kind of where I've always felt comfortable. You know, kind of coming from that football background of like, they want you to squat a lot. They want you to deadlift a lot, you know, all this other stuff. And that's kind of where I've always felt comfortable. So when I started that workout kind of regimen of like eating right and like really starting to stick to working out every day, I was doing legs like 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh,
which
wow.
is, I mean, it's not what I want to do right now to be optimal, obviously, but that's kind of what I felt like I need to do to at least start working out.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I'm doing, because I'm trying to build my legs.
Yep. Hey, you gotta grind at them for sure.
Yeah. Moving on a little bit to your thoughts and like some of the challenges and lessons that you, I guess, have experienced through this whole prep. Like, have you, I mean, I had my one of my guests already, you know, we're talking about how, and I feel like, you know, even from the beginning of this conversation, I probably would say that like you maybe could relate to that, but we were talking about kind of like that body dysmorphia, right? And
Oh yeah, it's
struggling a little
horrible.
bit with that, you know. So yeah, so it sounds like you've also been having that a little bit.
Oh, 100%. Because you, I mean, it's like you work so hard, you get so lean, and it's never like I tell people now, it's never enough. You know, you'll never, once you get that kind of like that nitty of like, oh, my shoulders aren't big enough. Oh, my back's not full enough. My legs need to be more defined. It's like you'll never have something you can't complain about. You know, it's like even when you're your leanest, you look the best. It's like, man, why do I have so much fat in my stomach still? You know, it's like yeah, everybody's like, man, you're looking good, you're shredded. It's like, no, it's like my legs are small or my shoulders are small. You'll never, no matter what. Now it's like on the opposite end. Now I'm bulking. It's like now you feel fat again.
Right.
It's an endless cycle. It really is.
Yeah, and then you keep picking yourself apart, and, you know, like you
Hmm.
said, like, but it's, you know, it's funny because it's like no one else is really looking at the small details that like maybe we're paying attention to, you know,
Exactly.
as hard as we pay attention to. So
Yep.
um and what was probably like the most challenging part for you? Was it like mental, was it physical, or a little bit of everything throughout like this whole experience for you?
Definitely on more on the mental side. You don't realize how compromised your mind can get when it's like I try to be like a really happy guy. I try to, you know, lift people up when I can. And it's really hard when you're like, I don't know, 2 weeks out from a show and you're depleted and people are coming up to you, talking to you, and it's like all you want to do is just like go sit, go home, sleep. You don't want to talk to anybody, and you got to try to be uh like your normal self, I guess, when mentally you're not. You know, it's you want to be somewhere isolated. You just want to do your workout and leave, but you got 10 or 15 people coming up to you, and it's like yeah, it's like I'm gonna put on the smile and and act like I'm doing okay, but people don't realize how much you just want to give up, I guess you should say. And it's important that you don't, and you kind of push through that, because that's what makes you a little more mentally tough, and kind of
Hmm.
knowing you can push through hard stuff. You know, then those little things that happen in life won't be so tough, I guess.
Yeah. And um what would you do you think that like in the future when you do another competition in prep, mostly, do you think that like there's something that you learn with this one that I'm sure there is, but like or what are some of the things that you've learned through this prep that you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that the next time?
Yeah. Oh, there's a giant list of stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it starts from like getting a coach, going 100%. Uh, I mean, I was pretty good on my diet, but there's obviously little things you can still button up on, and really, really taking the time to uh, get good workouts would be another thing. It's like you go in there a lot of the times, and you take the excuse of, oh, I'm not eating enough, so I can't train to my full capacity, and I feel like I could have pushed a lot harder in the weight room throughout the prep than I was, I should say.
Okay.
So that's something I'll definitely keep in mind. And no matter how dark some of the days get or how tough it gets, you still gotta show up and perform in the spot, like obviously in the weight room that kind of got you to where you're at, I should say.
Right. And so you mentioned that like the next time you'd like to get work with a coach. Now, do you have one in mind at all?
No, not at the moment, because I'm not honing in on one till I've kind of know for sure I'm looking for a show. So I'm giving myself a solid year, maybe year and a half to put on the size I want. And then I'll start kind of looking into people who I definitely want to bring conditioning like to a whole different level for the next one. So I'm gonna find somebody who's hopefully really conditioned oriented and like brings people in or has other competitors come in just really shredded. Because I don't know if I'll ever, obviously I'm natural, so I wouldn't want to I want to push it as far as I can on that side before we do anything else, obviously. And
Okay,
I want to
nice.
I want to see how they dial up other competitors and see if we can get that type of conditioning, I guess.
Yeah. So, and that's a point that I was going to actually ask you. You're natural,
hmm
but you know, what is your goal or your plan to like sticking to that or maybe shifting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely 100% off the like not going natural the whole time, just because realistically in bodybuilding, you get to a certain point of you hit your genetic limit, you eat as well as you can eat, but naturally you get to a certain point and that's as much as mass as you can put on
Hmm.
on your own. You can eat as clean as you want, but it's to really compete at the higher level, I feel like, obviously you're gonna have to more than likely not go the natural route, which it's not off the table. I feel like there's a lot more progression I can do in the gym, um just on my own, buttoning up
Right.
the training and buttoning up the food a little bit more. And as long as I'm progressing and I see change and I see um that I'm actually getting something out of the workouts, then there's no reason to.
Yeah, totally agree. Um, and then, so I know you just mentioned about the coach thing, and that's something that I mean, I 100%, understand how that is because it is, expensive first of all, and
Oh yeah.
it's an investment in all and it's all its ways, but that's something that I like did on my own too, is like I even though I knew that I was like, okay, I'm not going to invest in a coach at this moment or anytime like soon, but
Right.
I was doing my research and I was like keeping an eye on some of the people and just
hmm
like, I remember I even like reached out to a few and actually had like those consultations with them just to see like, is it
if you're feeling their
someone.
vibe.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
now that there's like podcasts and stuff like that, like there was some of them where I would follow them just to see like, okay, they were on this podcast. Let me go listen to them because you get to know a little bit more about them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I knocked some people off my list because I had, made a list and I was like, okay, these are the people. And then
hmm
I would knock off some of those people off the list when I was like, oh no, like you kind of get to see and hear more about them. And also like visiting um some of their clients, what they're kind of like just, you kind of have to like snoop around a little bit and just to
Oh, for
kind of
sure. And
see,
see
so
some
yeah.
feedback, see what other people thought of them, because I
Hmm.
mean, they're going to be with you for that time you're prepping, and you want to make sure you guys not only like you trust what you can work out, and then the next point, if you want to really think about looking at a show, figure out how the posing aspect goes, figure out what division you're going to be in, and then give it a shot. There's nothing really. Everybody in that not everybody I should say, but majority of the people in that field are very supportive. That's why I encourage anybody who's got questions, ask me, and I'll give you what I think what I think's right.
Yeah. Have you been introduced or like have you met like new people since you've been on the journey? Have you seen like extra support, even at the gym where we go to or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised on how many people keep tabs on how you're doing. If you're like, I think more or less people just kind of see if like, oh, is he really going to do it?
Mm,
And once people figure out like, oh, fuck, he's not bullshitting. He means business. And once you follow through, people kind of trust your word more, I guess. So, which is a good thing, because I would never tell something to somebody I don't 100% believe in myself. You know, I'm not going to tell somebody lies or tell them if, like, whenever I see somebody in the gym progressing, even if it's they don't want to be a bodybuilder, you know, just lose a little bit of weight, or just got to give them that acknowledgement of, hey man, you're doing good, you know, keep it up. The information they're giving you, you want to be able to trust their word, you know, of like even on those days like where you don't want to train, can you talk to that person? You know, if you're having a rough day, can you tell them about your day? Just like little stuff like that. It's like, how much can I trust you, you know?
Exactly. And because like I'm also very, like, for me, when I invest in someone and I'm putting in money, even if it's not a lot, it's really important for me that the person or the coach or whatever, that they're a professional. Like that's something, it's super important to me. It's like, if I send you my check-ins, I expect to have check-ins returned in a, you know, a timely manner.
Exactly. And you want her to be completely honest. I would never want to send a check-in and, you know, like one coach tells me, oh, you're doing great, you're looking good. And then another coach tells me, we got some stuff we can button up here. You know, that's, I want 100% transparency. Honestly, I don't want any beating around the bush. I want you to, like, if this is what I'm committing to, I don't want you to run me around in circles saying I'm progressing or I'm doing good when I'm realistically, I'm not. I could be training harder. I could be dieting harder, just stuff like that.
And also like values, at least for me, it really goes a long way. So if a person's values doesn't really align with mine, I'm like,
yeah, cross them off the list.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Now, so what are some future goals that you have as far with anything really, especially with like fitness, obviously?
I mean, now that I'm kind of like 100% committed to the bodybuilding thing, I would definitely, I mean, obviously everybody wants to become an IFBB pro or professional, you know, and I'd say that's the first step, you know, see if we can get a pro card eventually. That's down the for the long road, but I do realize it's going to take a lot more time. Don't rush anything. You know, you can get kind of antsy and, you know, want to see progress faster than you're actually getting it. But in the long run, it pays off when you kind of do it the slow and steady route, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely an IFBB pro tag would be one day would be great,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
but you got
Yeah.
to put in the work for it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I do believe that you can get there.
Thank you. I appreciate
And
that.
yeah, and it's good to see, you know, always you progressing in the gym and stuff like that. And so it's really cool that you want to go for your pro card. And I'm sure once you know, continue to compete more, you'll want to even have goals of like, okay, I want to do this show, because I know that becomes kind of a thing too, where it's like, you know, that's kind of like my dream or my goal is to be a pro, but also step on at so and so stage or whatever.
Oh, some
So
of the biggest stages. I know, it's like,
yeah.
it's crazy. It's like, I wanted the show to be, the first show I did, as small as possible, and it ended up being a little bigger. Now it's like, now that I'm kind of got the stage fright, I guess, out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy how you just want to keep, now my goal is the biggest stage possible. Obviously it's like, it's like, now I want to go to the Olympia, you know, and pose in front of everybody, but it's like,
Yeah.
you gotta put the work in to get there. But just kind of getting over that stage fright of it. And it's crazy how now I'm on the complete opposite end of like, I want to go to the biggest show possible. I want to get invited to the biggest show. I want to be able to compete in it against some of the best people out there.
Yeah, I mean, you're young, so you still got like a huge window to make that like really happen. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah, that'll be cool. And then as we are getting ready to close off here, just a couple like random things. What is something that that you like to do for you outside of like work and like working out? What's something that you enjoy?
I mean, I'm kind of weird. I'm pretty I kind of do I like doing just every day. Like, I like going on hikes. I like being outside. I actually just recently got engaged, so the more time I can kind of spend with my family and the people who mean the most to me is, I mean, it doesn't really matter what we're doing as long as we're kind of just spending time together, I guess. I'm not real. I don't really like to go out. I don't like to party. That's not really my thing, and I would never front like it's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, just quality family time, I guess.
Yeah, so introverted. And by the way, congratulations on your engagement also.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, so you're more introverted and just kind of like chill and laid back then, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. Never, not you're not going to see me going out to any bars anytime soon, really.
No, yeah, I'm the same way. So yeah. And then is there anything that you would like to share to anyone, you know, that maybe wants to kind of head in the same direction as you?
Yeah, I mean, if you have even just a little bit, like, I mean, ever since I kind of, people figure out I followed through with it and they're asking me about my experiences and like what it really takes to do it. It's like, whatever type of effort you can bring forward, and if you really want to see if you can hold yourself accountable and actually follow through with something, and working out's a passion, I say give it a shot. You know, it's the only thing stopping you from doing it to yourself, which is kind of a corny thing to say, but it's true, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you like, geez, even a little bit interested, you know, kind of like try the diet, you know, see how that goes. Try working out as hard as